I hope this is working. All right, this is the first time I'm going live on my phone, so I'm hoping that it's going to work okay and that you can hear me all right. I'm opting for a microphone today, so I'm hoping that the sound is going to be all right, but if anyone is on here, let me know if you can hear me or not, and I can hopefully adjust all of that. But in the meantime, until a few people join, I thought today I would just kind of do a little bit of a catch up and also just run through some of my current favorites. I feel like I really enjoy listening to kind of more podcast style videos or audio tracks. And I thought this was just kind of a better opportunity to ramble and chat through a few things that I've been up to lately, and yeah, just kind of cover a few things, answer a few questions, run through how the garden is going at the moment. It is very busy in the garden. It's kind of the busiest time, I suppose, that coming into the end of summer, planting a lot more plants and getting ready for a lot of the autumn harvests, because in autumn is usually our busiest time in southeast Queensland, and then coming into winter as well to kind of get a lot more productivity in the garden. So yeah, so today I thought I would just kind of chat through a few things like that. If anyone is on here or is going to be, let me know how the sound quality is and if you can hear me or not. I wanted to start out this live by just acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which I'm on today. So I am on Yuggera country here in Brisbane, and I just wanted to acknowledge the past, present and emerging traditional owners of this land, and pay respects to traditional owners and people who, yeah, traditional owners of the land that I'm on. And it's something that I would like to start doing, and I'm learning how to do it. I've recently just started to participate in a nature reading course, which is something that I will go through today, but it's something that I would also like to start doing on my videos, and I've started to write down in the description box kind of the country and the traditional lands on wherever I film the video and upload it. And it's something that is quite important to me, and that I'd also, yeah, love to know if you know what traditional lands that you're on as well. It's something that I think is a really valuable thing to know and to research. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. So I'm currently doing a nature reading course. So I'm working with Laura Bowen, and she has written and developed some amazing different oracle cards and artwork. So she is a beautiful artist, and I have some of her cards here with me today, and I thought I would run through just some of my current favorites in terms of what I've been reading, and also yeah, some different oracle cards that I've also been using and that really help me connect to nature a little bit more. So I have both the saltwater reading cards here that I use and the Dreamtime reading cards. And I kind of use these cards kind of on a weekly basis, I suppose, and basically I'll pull them out of their box. If anyone does join, just let me know by commenting or something like that. Still very much getting used to doing lives. Okay. So for anyone listening and not actually having a visual, I'm showing right now some reading cards that I really, really like to use. And these cards are very symbolic of the area which Laura is from. So down on the mid coast of New South Wales, and they're basically just artwork of different things around in her environment that she has linked to feelings and interpretations of nature and how they make us feel, and kind of a little bit more of the spiritual meaning behind a few of the things. So we've got things in here like clapsticks, which is a reverberations card, waterfall, which symbolizes release. And they're all just such beautiful artworks, and there's a lot of animals on here as well that I am very familiar with, and thankfully they're all some really awesome Australian animals, such as the green tree frog. Okay, we have a few people here. Hello, Nick and Gail. Nice to see you both. I'm going to be kind of going between my phone and the computer to read comments because it's a little hard to read on the phone. But yeah, I was just sharing some of these cards, and I thought I would chat through a few of my favorites of the month of January and kind of do a rundown on what I've been up to in the garden and outside the garden as well. So yeah, they're really, really beautiful cards, and I would definitely recommend getting your hands on them if you do like a little bit more of journal prompting. I know I really, really like to take these out on the balcony in the morning and kind of just journal about the day and try to read nature a little bit more, which is what I have started to do with the nature reading course. So the nature reading course is kind of, I think it's about 6 weeks or so, and each week we have different activities where we learn how to read nature and kind of interpret what's going around, which is really helpful for me because I can start to keep a nature reading journal, which I've wanted to do for ages, and are so valuable to kind of know what's happening in the seasons. So season to season I can write down what plant is flowering, what kind of pollinators I see around, and also just understand about how that makes me feel as well. So I know personally, I know Scott and I were just talking before about how we feel in summer, and we don't really do too well in the heat. It is very, very hot and humid in summer in southeast Queensland, and that makes gardening for me personally a little bit harder to do. So yeah, it's really, really, I think it's useful to understand how you feel, going from season to season. And I tend to use the Dreamtime reading cards a little bit more kind of in the winter months, and the saltwater reading cards a lot in the summer months. So yeah, they're really, really beautiful cards. Let me know, anyone who joins, where you're from as well, and how your day has been or how your weekend has been, and if you've gotten up to anything in the garden. This week I frantically wanted to plant out the new garden that I've been trying to get done for ages, and thankfully had some time here and there after work to get it all planted. So I'm hopefully going to be putting out a garden video or a January garden tour hopefully this week. I was aiming at filming it today, but we had really, really weird weather today when it was raining and then not raining, and it was a little bit difficult to film, so I didn't get around to it. Yeah, it's definitely, I would love to have more houseplants as well. That's something that I am slowly learning about. I have one behind me, kind of a random one there that the cats broke the pot for. So that's another thing that we have to deal with in the house as cats, and they don't tend to, or they do tend to like the houseplants a little too much. So they get very interested. So it's a little difficult, but I would love to have more houseplants. What kind of houseplants do you have? And if there's any easy ones, please let me know, because I would love to get my hands on some more houseplants. I think what I might also, Gail, you've also been struggling with the heat. Yeah. Inland, it's so much hotter inland compared to the coast. We used to live kind of closer in around the CBD in Brisbane, and then we moved further inland, and just that kind of, yeah, half an hour or so makes a really big difference with the temperature and the extreme days. The benefit though, we get cooler nights, which is good, but then it does tend to get quite cold in winter as well. So indoor Hoyas, I'll have to look into that. Cool. I want to make a list of plants and kind of have them in a room where the cats can't get to it. So probably when the bathroom is done here, I can fill it with plants and make it a little indoor jungle. One other thing that I was going to chat today and just kind of document for both myself and anyone who's interested in these videos is just some of the books that I have been reading. I am definitely a bookworm, or try to be. I've kind of, I don't know, dropped off a little bit with the amount of reading I am doing, because I find it quite hard sometimes to sit down and focus on reading, and particularly before bed I'm just super tired and yeah, find it challenging to read. But a few of the books that I have been reading lately have been great to read before bed because they're quite easy. And I spoke about this in one of my other videos, but I've been reading A Cottage in 3 Acres by Colette O'Neill. And she has a YouTube channel called, I never know how to pronounce it, I think it's Beltane or Beltane Cottage. And Beltane is, I think it's the peak of summer in Ireland, or kind of the Celtic word for it. And this book was just absolutely amazing, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who's interested in permaculture. She is a self-published artist. Well, she's also an artist, but she's an author, and yeah, she writes about how she basically transferred and kind of created this beautiful wonderland on 3 acres that was, I suppose it was considered poor land before she bought it, and that's why it was so cheap. And it's just surrounded by like cattle and sheep farms, and she kind of made the choice to buy it, even though it was considered poor land and very boggy over there, which is the complete opposite to what we have here in southeast Queensland. And yeah, she transformed the landscape into the most amazing, beautiful property. I don't know whether I can show you some photos that she has in this book, but this book kind of shows and goes through her journey of transforming the landscape. If I can find a photo. The book is just filled with like beautiful images in the middle of the book, and yeah, just documents her journey really, really well. If you can imagine that everything was just really bare before she came here, and she created this beautiful magical wonderland, and I am just so in awe of it and so glad that I read the book. And she goes into kind of like her opinions about the world, and you know, where we could probably go a little bit better in the world, which is fine by me because I share a lot of those opinions. But her voice, now that I've watched her videos, I basically just read the book in her voice, and yeah, thought it was really beautiful. So that's one book that I've read in the month of January, and yeah, I've been really enjoying it. Another book that I have been reading, actually listening to, is an audio book, and it's called Growing Up Aboriginal in Australia, and it's a compilation of just a lot of different stories from Aboriginal people who have grown up in Australia and talk about their experiences, and yeah, different both the positive and the negative behind a lot of the stories, but all of the stories that I listen to, and the audiobook is fantastic, and I'll try and include after I film this and upload it, all of the links to these books, but the stories in the book are basically everyone that I listened to was making me cry. It was very emotional, and I think it's definitely a must read for all Australians to get that input and knowledge about our country and what has happened in our past, and how all Australians feel, and their experiences with growing up in Australia, because it's very different. Yeah, and it's something that really I want to learn more about and interests me, because I work with a lot of Indigenous communities in Western Cape York. So I work with Wickwire and Alnith people, and trying to establish Indigenous protected areas on their land, and create all kind of more so put forward different governance structures so that traditional owners can make decisions, and not having that kind of top-down approach, but more so a bottom-up approach, and trying to implement that on country, which is very interesting and important to me. And I really wanted to learn more about the history of Australia, and it was kind of a perfect time to do it around the 26th. So yeah, I found that really interesting, and helps me out with a lot of my work that I do. So if anyone has any questions, I know there's only a few people on here, but I kind of just wanted this time to kind of create a little bit more content, and not have to edit it all. I'll try not to touch my microphone. I'm almost finished The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart, which is a lovely novel that centres around an Australian native flower farm. So that's very interesting that you say that, because I actually have this book right here, and it's actually my book for February that I want to read. So that's cool that you have read it. What would you give it out of a 10? That's kind of what I've been asking a few people, because I had a quick look on Goodreads, and it has some really, really good reviews on it. I picked this up from an op shop for $1, and I've been wanting to read it for a while, but also just like the cover kind of, you know, it really sells it for me. So I was happy to pick this up, and yeah, I'm really interested to read it. So yeah, that's awesome that you say that it's kind of good. An 8.5 out of 20. That's all right. That's, you know, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, out of 10. Yeah, that sounds more like it. I was gonna say, should I read it or not? But an 8.5 out of 10 is pretty good, in my opinion. So yeah, apparently it's won some awards, and yeah, a lot of other people say that it's really, really good. So I'm really excited to read that. Yeah, and I think every month or at some point in my videos, I really want to talk about what books I'm reading, because yeah, I really want to learn and get more ideas of different books. I'm a part of a few different, or I'm part of one book club at the moment run by Katie Flowers, who's another YouTuber, but she's kind of taking a little bit of a break right now, and yeah, wanted to kind of just set my own reading goals. So I've set a goal of 21 books for 2021. So I'm hoping to read, 21 books. So we'll see how we go. And that includes audio books as well, just because I got an Audible subscription, and I've just really been enjoying listening to some books as well, instead of podcasts just in the car, because I do a lot of driving a lot. Yeah, but I'm really excited to read that, and hopefully I can get that book and another book read in the month of February, and I will let you all know how that goes. Again, let me know if you have any questions relating to gardening or anything really. I'm happy to chat about anything, or else I will just keep rambling. Something that I did also want to talk about and include just as a resource for people is just some of my favourite guides and bush food books. So I have a lot of different native bush tucker books, and I thought I would just share them on a live to kind of have it as a reference point. Hi Josh, nice to see you. That's okay. We've just been chatting about books and life and everything random. So if you've got any questions or topics that I could talk about, let me know. Hopefully it's cooled down over there. I know you're having some really hot days. But yeah, I hope everything's going well with you at the moment. I do have a cup of tea here as well, so I'm going to be sipping on a cup of tea in my gorgeous mug as well. So make sure you do have a tea or coffee or something. So I was going to run through a few different guides that I find really, really useful if you are interested in identifying some native plants. Wow, okay, so it's 43 degrees at the moment, Josh. Wow. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I hope that you are inside and drinking a cool drink or something, because that's insane. I feel like you guys have just had so much hot weather over in WA. We seem to be getting the La Nina here a lot, so just the kind of a lot of wet weather, which has decreased the temperature a little bit. Hi Sue, how you going? I'm guessing you're over in really hot weather as well. I'm not sure. I hope it's not too hot where you are. I'm sitting in aircon at the moment, so it's pretty nice here, but yeah, very hot. Geez, I don't know how you're gardening in 43 degrees. That's insane. Aircon going and plenty of cold kombucha. Nice. That sounds good. I have been doing lots of different drinks with soda water and trying to take lots of water out when we go gardening and walking, because it's just really humid here as well. I'll run through a few of these books, and while I'm doing this, if anyone's got any questions, just leave them in the comment section. So the first book that I have is The Wild Food Plants, and this is by Tim Lowe. This is probably my number one book that I would recommend if you want to start looking into wild food plants or bush tucker. And this is something that I use out in the field as well when I go ID and do different walks up north, which I haven't really been able to travel recently. But basically this book, it has pretty much a whole page for each of the different bush foods, which is really handy, and some really nice photos as well that kind of give an indication of both the fruit or the leaves that you would be eating. And this has, it has a good range, but keeping in mind that there are just so many bush food plants in Australia, and that's why it's sometimes good to get one that is kind of specific to the area that you live in. I know for Cape York, there's one on Cape York, and there's, I think there is one for Southeast Queensland as well. But because I work in a few different places, I haven't bothered to get that one yet. But yeah, this one is really useful, and a lot of these actually are from Southeast Queensland. So I think I showed before one of the Davidson plums. They have pigweed or something. We have a lot in the garden, really high in vitamin C. Native rosellas in here. I would, as I say in kind of whenever I'm talking about bush foods, definitely make sure that you're 110% sure of what you're eating before you consume it. Sometimes I have even come across lily pillies, which are, I find totally safe, but on the off chance that I don't know what kind of lily pilly it is or whether it's been sprayed or not as well, I just tend to not consume it. But this is a really good guide, and can kind of get you thinking about what you might want to plant in the garden. So we just planted one of these as well, which is the rainforest kangaroo apple, and there's also got all of your native raspberries in here, which we've also planted quite a few of. So there's some awesome ideas in here. Awesome. Hi Zoom and Betty, how are you? How's it going down in Melbourne at the moment? We were all talking about the weather because we're all gardeners / homesteading people who love to talk about weather. And I'm also just going through some of my favourite bush tucker books as well, just to have as a reference. Definitely know what you're eating before you pick it off a bush or whatever. This is another great book. It's called The Bush Tucker Guide. And it's got a lot of animals in here, which obviously don't go out and kill native animals because that is not okay and you're breaking the law. But it does kind of give you a little bit of information about what you can and can't eat. Definitely fish is obviously an exception, depending on where you're getting it from. But I just really like this because it also has some recipes in it. So this book has some recipes on different native pestos that you can eat, and has lots of really, really bright, vibrant colours as well, which is really, really useful if you're going out, and you know, it might have something in here that isn't in any of the other books. So it's a really great book, and so this one's by Samantha Martin as well. And the next one that I have that I like to use and like to read through isn't quite a native bush tucker book, but it's something that I think is really useful, and it's a handbook on some of the different weeds that you can forage for and consume. And again, with weeds, a lot are edible, and I have tried a few, but you want to be really, really careful because a lot of people spray weeds, and particularly if they're spraying them, you know, the day before or not, you just want to make sure that it's a clean plant, and you know, you're finding it either in your own lawn or grass or area that you know that hasn't really been sprayed. So again, the good old pigweed is coming up in here. Plantain is a really, really popular weed that is edible. And a lot of these, you'll just need to make sure that you prepare it properly. So this book goes into a lot of detail about where it's from. So it actually kind of is a native food and native bush tucker plant from different countries. But you just want to make sure that you do prepare it correctly, because yeah, as you'd want to do with all bush food plants. And then the last one that I have to include him because he's an icon. Depending if you do like him or not. But that's Les Hidden's book, the Bush Tucker Field Guide. And yeah, he has just some really, really great images in this book as well. And this book is really nice because it's quite compact and handy to carry around. Yeah, and I really like it that they kind of have a little bit of a range of where they might be located or not. So yeah, it's kind of easier to know if you know you're on the other side of Australia where it wouldn't usually be located. You can have a look at that as well. It also goes through which ones are completely poisonous and that you need to prepare properly before eating them. But yeah, it's another really, really good book. So those 4 books are my go-to at the moment for identifying edibles. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have this book here. He's definitely a character, and would recommend having a look at the old school TV program that he has with a lot of the bush foods and bush tucker out in the bush. So yeah, so that was a few of the books that I have been reading and going through. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions about gardening as well. I kind of haven't had a look at the comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you've got a particular topic that you want me to chat about, I'd be happy to go through it. I didn't actually do too much gardening this weekend. One of my best friends had a party yesterday, so you know, like, who knows what a party is anymore. It was feeling kind of weird to go socialise, but it was really nice to go out, but I'm kind of paying for it today, so. Cool, so interested to hear more about my PhD. Awesome, well, yeah, it's getting done. It's a long process, and I'm kind of wrapping it up at the moment, so I have about 6 more months or so doing it. So I've been doing it for about 3 years. And basically the topic is understanding the impacts of mining on ecosystem services. And ecosystem services are basically the benefits that we receive from nature. And that's also why I was talking about doing a nature reading course before, because I'm really interested in learning the cultural benefits of being outdoors and the mental benefits, so benefits for your well-being. So I apply all of kind of that question and topic to Indigenous communities around in Western Cape York who are impacted by bauxite mining. So making all of the mines that contribute to aluminium. And it's all red dirt, it's very, very messy, and they're really, really large scale mines. So taking out a massive chunk of land is obviously going to have impacts on biodiversity, which a lot of people study, which is really, really important, understanding the impacts of mining on plants and animals. But I look at it more from a people point of view. So understanding how it might impact people's like sense of identity and sacred places, whether you can relocate sacred places or not during mining, and different bush food as well. That is a paper that I'm working on at the moment, is to quantify how many bush food plants are in an area that is going to be mined, and then understand whether or not there's actually post-mining goals to return that or not, which there's not at the moment currently, and then to kind of go, okay, well, there's X amount of plants in this area that provide a lot of bush food to Indigenous communities that they would like to see, and it's one of their desires to see. This is might be what you need to return at post-mining then, and to kind of start giving a number rather than planting a broad-scale seed mix, which is what's currently done post-mining, is to usually use helicopters and a few tube stock here and there to plant out the area, which unfortunately just isn't successful. So in Queensland, I think in Queensland, statistics are like, I think there's only been about 2 mines out of the tens of thousands of different active mines and mines, in the past. Only 2 mines have actually kind of been completely rehabilitated and handed over. So that's the statistics that we work with, which is not great, obviously. And it's to do with so many different things, keeping mines open to be able to use the resources in the future, and also to hand over to smaller different companies who want to come through and mine. And yeah, that's all good, Sue. No worries, I will see you later. I hope you have a lovely rest of your Sunday. So basically with a PhD, you can either do it a few different ways. I'm opting to do it to write each of my chapters of my thesis are going to be a paper. So I recently just had my first published paper as a first author come out yesterday. So that was all on a literature review on basically whether the literature and scientists with their glasses and hats on, whether they're actually doing this research or not. And we found that they're not. They're not really doing it thoroughly, and yeah, thank you. And that they're not actually talking to people about these impacts. So a lot of people look at biodiversity, but not a lot of people take that extra step and go, okay, well, there's so much to do with nature that we benefit from, both in terms of food, even things like pollination, the bees kind of working and doing their thing in nature. We take out plants, they're not there to do that anymore. That's considered an ecosystem service, and same as having a sacred place and being able to go out there in a completely natural environment brings so much mental and physical health to someone that we're not really considering right now. So yeah, it's really interesting work. Can you relocate sacred places? Never considered that being an option. So I would say no, not for. So you can't relocate the actual sacred place, but I suppose the way you can relocate the way people act in sacred places. So one big thing that one of my studies papers will show, hopefully close in the future, that sharing of knowledge in Indigenous communities is one of the most important aspects of culture, and to do that you need to go out on country, and a lot of the time you go to different sacred places that are sacred to either women or men. But you can relocate different places, say having a place for people to share knowledge, which is something that we're looking into to understand whether or not we can protect that sacred area and the sacred space by having different buffer zones around it and having access to it, but then also adding a bit more and having a bit of compensation in terms of actually providing places for people to go to share knowledge. And being able to go out on country. But I'm just going to say from past experience, sacred places, while, I mean, you know, I consider them really, really important, in a mining kind of view, these mines can last for 60 years or so. And that's unfortunately someone's life and generation. And the main thing that's happening is this knowledge is being lost, because people don't have access to different areas to continue that knowledge and that culture. So yeah, what's really scary is a lot of when you know, this goes for any land use change, is that, yeah, when you don't allow access, then people are really affected by it and can really, yeah, lose culture. So, hi Griffin, how you going? We're just talking about some heavy topics about mining and ecosystem services, which is the work that I'm currently doing. Unfortunately, my plans for my PhD were going fantastic, and then COVID happened. And like many people, it just, you know, got, you know, turned upside down, and my fieldwork completely stopped. So I couldn't complete a lot of my studies that I was doing in fieldwork. So. Hi Peter, how are you both? I am well. I am enjoying a nice cup of tea on my Sunday, trying to get ready for the week. And it's actually kind of good to talk about my PhD and work, because I have a lot of things to do this week on it, including doing different press releases and getting media statements, and it should be interesting, pretty fun. Is there any other questions that anyone has? I could talk about mining for so long, and So I have a friend that works for Aboriginal of Victoria and is an archaeologist that has been working in the mining regions in WA. So unfortunately they had a lot of issues over in WA that made the news. And yeah, it was really disappointing what happened with the different, it was probably more than just the one site with the explosion of one of the sacred places over there. And yeah, unfortunately, that was all done under the law. So everything was legal that happened over there. And a lot of the time this happens, it actually is legal. What is the problem is just the lack of communication and the misinformed community members and mining industry about the potential ramifications of destroying sacred places. So yeah, so it was really interesting to see their statements, and so I've thankfully worked with some really great companies of mining who are really progressive and actually do want to change. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of hope for that, but we need more people doing research. And yes, so I'm an environmental scientist and have done a Bachelor of Science and Honours, and now doing my PhD in research as well. So yeah, so I have a lot of knowledge in the area, but yeah, can learn a lot more as well. So what's growing in the garden? Quite a lot. So I have thankfully planted one of the big gardens that I was working on. So God, the soil here is just so poor and hard to dig in. not that I'm doing like a digging garden, but it's just hard to like dig a friggin' hole. And so I have planted all of my tomatoes now. They're all in the ground. I obviously, like I do every time, plant like so many different starts and then don't end up planting them all, so I'm having to give away a lot. But I have planted all my tomatoes, my okra, zucchinis have all gone in. I've tried to also do a lot of borders of flowers around this garden, so it's really just trial and error to see what flowers will grow. I'm really excited to try straw flowers again, and I'm growing cosmos for the first time. I've never grown cosmos before. And yeah, I've also been planting a lot more native species here. So one thing about poor soil is that it's not actually poor soil for a lot of plants, and that goes for all of the native plants around here. Love the granitic soil, love the poor lack of organic matter. So it's a win when you're planting natives who, yeah, they're just, I don't need to do anything to them. So I've been planting a lot of natives. So Peter says, I want to know, with mining, say a company digs the pits, I've seen them dig right through the earth. Do they have to cover the hole with original dirt? Yeah, it's an interesting question, because a lot of the time when you're digging out an area, it's going to be subsiding after mining, which is a massive problem in mining. Land subsidence is really bad. So a lot of the time, and best practice in mining, is to strip the topsoil off first and to pile that in an area, and that kind of like holds, you know, like compost. You're storing your compost and you cover it and you let it sit, and then best practice is to return it. But a lot of the time the area will just have a little bit of a dip in the landscape, but usually in post-mining they will kind of recreate the different contours and topography of the landscape. So yeah, a lot of the times it will be flat when you start, and then by the end of mining you'll have a little bit of undulation in the landscape, but it is all covered back with the overburden, which is just the rock and anything above what you're mining. Yeah, this is for open cut mining though, so this is like coal, bauxite, and some of the metals as well. But when you get into underground mining and doing coal seam gas, there's a lot of other issues where you can't actually just take off the whole bit of land, because the ore body is just so spread out in the landscape, and you have to kind of do drilling in different areas. But yeah, there's so many different types of mining, but the ones that I work with are just all open cut, so you just kind of go along in a line, taking out the ore and then filling it in as you kind of go. So yeah. Lavender seems to do pretty well. Yeah, my lavender is growing really, really well, which is good because it's one of my favorite plants. I love growing lavender. I kind of have a thing for lavender farms, so yeah, it's been good to find one that's close to us in Brisbane around Boona. There's a lavender farm which we visited a few weekends ago, which was really, really lovely, nice and calming and soothing. But yeah, lavender is awesome. And the healing properties, yeah. So I've also tried to start cooking with lavender, and usually at the last place that I had, I would kind of hang a little bit of it here and there and let it dry, and then I've been trying to do some baking with it, just as kind of a decoration once it's dry. Yeah, it's a lovely plant to have in the garden. I love edible flowers as well. I want to grow lots more in the time that we're here. Any other questions about gardening, or yeah, I think for a few of you who weren't joining in before, I ran through some of the books I was reading about what I was reading in January, and this is the book that I'm going to be reading in February. So if you have read The Lost Flowers of Alice Hart, let me know. A few, I think Nick was one of them who had read this book, but yeah, I kind of want to do a monthly wrap up of the different books I read as well, so I can go over that again. Any thoughts on how to grow turmeric? I have actually never grown turmeric before. I've grown some ginger before, I think with turmeric, particularly for southeast Queensland, because we can grow it all year round here, a lot of people that I know who have some turmeric just say the less work you do to it, the better. I think it doesn't mind getting a little bit dry as well. When I was growing some of the ginger, I didn't keep it fully saturated in the pots I had, and it grew well. But yeah, I've actually never tried to grow turmeric before, but that would be something really worthwhile growing. Um, Definitely would be a good addition to my smoothies. um, yeah, I want to definitely grow a lot more things in pots as well. It's just a lot easier around here. Um, yeah, we have such a big garden, but to be honest, I'm not actually sure how long we're going to stay here for, so I don't want to put in a lot of effort and work and money into the area, but I did want to definitely establish something for a vegetable garden for the other people who live in the house as well, so that they can enjoy it when we leave and move on. So yeah, we'll see what happens this year with moving and yeah, reshuffling jobs and everything like that. Yes, Zoom and Betty are amazing at growing things in pots. I am in awe of your balcony that you have. I I never thought I could grow melons or pumpkins or something in pots, but yeah, because I never have luck growing things like melons. But I actually harvested or picked my first rock melon today as well. And surprise, surprise, I actually did nothing to it. I let it grow out of the compost and it grew really, really well. I didn't really feed it. I did give it, I was making sure it was well watered. But yeah, managed to pick my first rock melon. So I'm super excited, and it's about like this big. It's massive. And yeah, I'm excited to try it. I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit on the counter to ripen up a little bit. But yeah, my first rock melon, I'm so excited, and I didn't really have to do too much for it. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Yes, I was very, very happy to see it. I kind of had to, we have a resident possum in underneath the house as well, that I feel there was a few little nibbles out of the side of the rock melon, but thankfully it seemed to just really grow over the bits that it had chewed. So I'm going to give it a good wash, obviously, if I, touch it and eat it. But the possum underneath the house, I feel, was just a little too close to it. So I was having to cover it every day to make sure that Mr. Possum didn't get in. But yeah, seemed to work fine. Your possums have started eating your tomato and cucumbers. Yeah, possums are really hard to deal with. And yeah, not much works. When we used to live in the city, I was covering things with, like netting, the stuff that's designed to stop possums, and they were just eating right through it. So I feel your pain with possums. I think, yeah, we tried putting like different spikes up around in the garden beds, and that seemed to work a little bit. I know it works for our cats, so we just put like a lot of different sticks in the beds, and they don't like to kind of walk through and over sticks. But yeah, possums are really hard to deal with. Yeah. Yet to make the veggie coop to keep the rats out. Yeah. Yeah, that veggie coop that you made looks really, really awesome. Yeah. I wish I was good at building things so I could build something like that. Yeah, I'll have to give it a go. Like mice and rats, I usually get a trap. Yeah. I know, yeah. I don't really like killing them either. I've lived in many a share housing situations where we had lots of rats, and the people in there. I'm predominantly a plant-based eater as well, but these people were really hardcore vegans. I had we had to get rid of the rats because, they were starting to chew through things that they really shouldn't have had. And yeah, that was very contentious with these hardcore hippies to not trap the rats, but eventually got them out of there. Yeah, but yeah, thankfully we haven't actually had too many problems with mice and rats around here. The cats don't go out at night or anything, or even really in the afternoon, so they're not kind of monitoring, the mice and rats and eating them. We haven't had any problems with any mice kind of crawling up anything and eating our corn or anything so far, which is good. But yeah, I know it's a big problem for a lot of people, particularly if there aren't predators out there. So we have a lot of different foxes and other kind of predators around. There's a lot of birds of prey as well around this area. So I think a lot of those tend to keep it down. We also have lots of snakes. Yeah, so one of the cats got out one night and, I was running around trying to find it and it was right next to a carpet python, and the carpet python was all like curled up back, ready to kind of strike. So I had to grab the cat quickly and Scott and I dealt with that situation. But yeah, snakes are just not my thing at all. I'm not a big fan of snakes. I love, they can stay out in the garden and do their thing, but yeah, I've had bad experiences with snakes growing up, so I'm a little bit scarred about that. Yeah, bats in your lychee tree has been a headache. Yeah, I could imagine. Have you tried netting it, or I don't even know what you would do for bats. I suppose they might respond to noise, but yeah, well, I mean, bats are so noisy anyway, but I suppose maybe netting would be your only real option. But I suppose if you've got a massive tree, then that's also hard to do. Yeah. Yeah, when you have chickens, you get mice. True. Yeah. I would love chickens, but yeah, next place we move, we're definitely getting chickens. Here in Melbourne, we have heaps of fruit bats. They're huge. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit big. Yeah, we have quite a lot of fruit bats here as well. I see them flying over, but the trees around here, we're surrounded by bush and eucalypts, and the bats tend to not prefer the eucalypt trees, say, to mango trees. There's a lot more mango trees closer into the city. So yeah, all of the eucalypts around us, they tend to not like roosting in. I think they prefer a little bit more of the larger fig trees or rainforesty areas, and that's kind of down the rivers a little bit further away from us. So thankfully we don't have too many fruit bats. But back up in North Queensland where I used to live, they were a big problem, and they had I think it's called the Lissa virus or something like that, where you'd have to really be careful walking underneath trees with fruit bats in case they like peed, or you'd get their saliva coming down, because yeah, really, really bad virus. So fruit bats are, they're native, and we need to work with them, and yeah, they're attracted to plants we also like to eat, like mangoes and lychees. So yeah, but maybe you could try, I don't know, maybe things with like noise on them, things that blow in the wind or something like that. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Yeah, let me know if you've got any other garden related questions. I'm trying to think of what else we did and the Hendra virus. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else I did in the garden this week. I think we have been harvesting a lot of bush beans, which is really cool now. No such thing as stupid questions. Can mining companies cause earthquakes while digging? I think so. You can cause things like land subsidence, and I suppose a lot of mining companies need explosives to be able to mine certain things, and that goes for a lot of underground mining. I have heard of some like coal seam gas causing, not quite to the point of earthquakes, but different ripple effects when you get to a certain seam or a different layer in the earth that you kind of expose or rupture, I suppose, and then that seam kind of goes up through the earth up to the surface, and that can cause a mini earthquake, I suppose. Thankfully in Australia we don't have a lot of active areas, but I think it would be possible if you are in an active area. If your explosion goes wrong underground when you're mining, then it could trigger some kind of seismic activity. But yeah, thankfully a lot of the mines that I have worked on are fairly close to the surface, the ore body, and so they don't need to do the massive explosions really far down in the earth. It's quite on the surface, that only needs small explosions to expose that subsoil and the overburden to get to the ore below. Yeah, it's amazing seeing the explosions happen, but yeah, it's also really detrimental to the surrounding area in terms of wildlife that's affected by it, and people as well who live around. Yeah. Do some companies dig huge craters when they mine? Yep. For a lot of the iron ore mines over in WA, a lot of those pits are massive. A lot of the coal mines as well in kind of the mid-north coast of Australia. Sorry if the phone is making noise as well. Yeah, a lot of the coal mines will need to dig really, really far down to get the coal seam, as well as a lot of the metal mines sometimes need larger holes. A lot of this you can actually just see from Google Earth as well. So you can Google, different mine sites and just zoom into the area, and it's nerd coming out here, but it is quite fun to see different sizes of the mines in Australia. You'd be surprised at how many there are. In just going a little bit further inland, in a lot of the capital cities, there are a lot of large mines. So grew up in the main gold mining area. Yeah. Yes, I saw your latest video about the pink cliffs. So yeah, a lot of mines in Australia unfortunately are abandoned, and that is due to poor management, poor planning, and not having the money there post-mining to be able to rehabilitate the landscape. And that's where that statistic comes back in of only about a few, you can count on one hand mines that have successfully been closed and rehabilitated. A lot of the time, what larger companies will do will sell the mine and the rights, not sell the land, but more the rights to the land to smaller companies who can then come in and remine the area. Hi, Free Spirit, how are you going? Unfortunately, a lot of areas are abandoned, and No worries, Peter. Thank you so much for joining in. I'll probably just stay on for another 10 minutes or so as well. So if you do have any last minute questions, whether it's mining or PhD or gardening, I'm happy to talk about them. One other thing with seeing abandoned mines, a lot of the kind of rules around post-mining is that it just has to be safe, stable, non-polluting, and self-sustaining. It's kind of the four broad categories of what a post-mining area should look like. And in that case, if it is providing some kind of tourism or and it's completely safe, a lot of the times mines will just be left like that if they do provide some kind of economic benefit or tourist attraction. So I know a lot of gold mines, particularly because they're so the older ones, because they're so sporadically placed, because the gold was in different areas, they're great tourist attractions now. But if you do ever see in metal mines or gold mines, if you see really bright blue water around different mine sites, there's some areas around Tasmania, it's called an area called Blue Lake, and it's post metal mining. Don't ever swim in it or go close to bright blue water. It's all due to different chemical reactions of different parts of the rock kind of reacting with oxygen, which produces a lot of acid and acid mine drainage issues. Yeah, and it's basically poison. So yeah, blue water, don't go near it. If it looks beautiful in an outback setting, it's probably highly acidic and will burn your skin. So yeah, I know some people who take some photos of some really pretty blue lakes. Yeah, but it's very pretty. Very pretty, good photo opportunity, good drone opportunity, but yeah, no touching. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it's a big issue. But you know, I always like to bring a little bit of positivity back to the subject of mining, and is kind of why I'm trying to do this research, is to, you know, make it better and put a bit more positivity into it, rather than talking about all the detrimental effects of mining, which there are a lot, but there's so many opportunities to improve it. So yeah, some of the old gold mines here have the water's really high in arsenic. Yeah, that's a big problem. Yeah. No worries. Thank you so much, Zoom or Betty or both. I'm not sure who's on. But yeah, thank you so much for joining in. I think I might wrap it up in a few minutes as well. So yeah, let me know if you've got any Zoom. Cool. Thank you so much for joining. I will hopefully see you next time, or if you do a live, I'll definitely join on as well. So yeah. I suppose if any of you missed it, anyone who's joined on, I was just going through a lot of books and kind of different cards and nature reading cards that I'm doing at the moment at the start of the video. So hopefully this will all be recorded and upload okay once I finish the stream. But yeah, I just wanted to give a good shout out to Laura Bowen, who creates these amazing nature reading cards. Has created some just great ways to do journaling and think about nature. So I'm doing her nature reading course right now, and I would definitely highly recommend checking Laura Bowen out if you are interested in learning how to interpret nature a little bit more from that kind of cultural point of view. It's been really interesting delving into understanding nature a little bit more. So yeah. Yeah, let me know if there's any other questions, or else about in a minute or so, I'll wrap it all up. And yeah, it's been good to kind of, chat with everyone, and catch up. I'm hoping to do these monthly just to, do a little bit of a rundown of what I've been doing in the garden and be able to actually have some kind of interaction with everyone. Yeah, it's been awesome, and hopefully one day it would be awesome to kind of set up like a live chat with like another person on as well, to do some kind of interview. I feel like that would be really valuable, and yeah, a really cool kind of like podcast situation as well. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. I am so glad you joined in. I might wrap it up now. Cool. I will definitely, work on trying to do that, because it'd be cool to be able to chat to everyone, and kind of have like an interview situation would be really awesome. So thank you so much for joining in, everyone. I hope you are enjoying your Sunday or Sunday night or Sunday morning, depending on where you are in the world. And I suppose until my next video, happy gardening, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you all next time. Bye.